Crows fans, the text messages have gone absolutely berserk about it. So we thought we'd get the chairman of the Adelaide Footy Club on now, Rob Chapman, just to have a little right of reply. Rob, how are you?
Yeah, good fellas. How you going? Well, I was good until probably half an hour ago when my phone started going off.
Okay, well, look, what we want to do for the new listeners, we're going to play what Andrew Demetriou said to us not a half hour ago.
This is the most significant sanction in AFL history. I don't know how people compare it with the Crows. For anyone to say that doesn't compare to the Crows, I don't get that at all. Now, the other thing I would say as well is that this club, unlike the Crows, cooperated fully. They actually self-reported. They came to us, and they, from the chairman through to the coaching staff, through to the staff, through to every player, every individual in that club cooperated fully and openly with the SADA and the AFL and the investigation. And that carries weight in sanctioning. And I've got to tell you, when we dealt with Adelaide, that didn't happen.
So, Rob, Essendon cooperated, you didn't?
Well, I wanted to come on your show, so I just rang Alicia and said, squeeze me in for 90 seconds, but I've just spoken to Andrew Demetriou. You know, I normally listen into the show, but I've been in meetings. And I just spoke to him and I said, Andrew, this is what people have just told me you've said. That's crap. And I walked him through it, and I walked you and I walked the listeners through it, and many people have heard me say it. I discovered the existence of the so-called side contract, which in effect was just a recording of conversations that went on. Within hours of Stephen Trigg, who was away on holidays overseas, he landed from a 24-hour flight. Within hours of him landing, he was in my office. I reckon within an hour of him being in my office and us discussing this, I personally rang Andrew Demetriou and I said, hey, I think we've got a problem. Actually doesn't sound too bad with all the context behind it, but I think you need to be aware of it and we need to investigate it. He said to me, Rob, I thank you. You've done the right thing. And in the event that some sanctions have to be applied because you've done the wrong thing, this will hold you in good stead. Now, I just repeated that story to Andrew, and he said, you're absolutely right. I recall it vividly. I went on to say, Andrew, you also know that I asked you, the AFL, for assistance. I said we need an investigative accountant to come in and look at all our files. And that's compliance 101. I do that day in, day out with these sorts of things. We got Deloitte in. They went through every hard disk, every phone, every file and discovered nothing. This was a one-off event. Had they discovered other things, the three people down there, they would have resigned. We wouldn't have waited for an AFL sanction. So he knows that. Furthermore, I was the one, our board, got on to KPMG and we asked them to do a whole independent third-party review, which they did, and we've implemented all of those things. And the Commission today say, or at least the executive of the AFL say, that we're back at the leading edge of governance down there. So we self-reported, we fully complied. I repeated this to Andrew and he agreed with me.
So does he need to make a retraction?
You need to speak to him about that. But we had a laugh at the end of this and I couldn't quite get whether it was out of context or whether he said what he said he didn't mean to say. But you'll need to get him back on the phone and say, Andrew's a smart bloke and he doesn't have seniors moments.
Okay,
so,
did you say to him, why did Essendon's draft sanctions less than yours?
I didn't have that discussion with him because we've got to resolve, this particular issue. But what he said right up front, and I was listening to it for the first time when you replayed it, those sanctions are the heaviest handed down to an AFL club in history. The players and coaching staff have worked for 11 months. They've earned the right to play in finals, and it's been stripped of them. People have said to me over the last, 20 hours, $2 million fine, that's not the issue. Well, you tell me where you're going to find $2 million from. That's a big hurdle. Now, the sanctions, we know how these are played out, and we chose to play it out. I said this to Andrew an hour ago. Mate, we had this wrapped up within, 40 days? The investigation started the moment I hung up from him in my office, and we battled hard. We had bare fist knuckle fights behind closed doors and really hard negotiations. And people don't know that because we chose not to say that, because we thought it was the right way to get the best outcome for our football club. And I'll cop criticism if people think we're weak on that. But that's the best thing for our footy club. And we got a negotiated outcome, and where it started to where it ended up was more than 50% better. So that $300,000 fine started at $1 million.
Jeez.
There weren't suspensions, there were sackings. And the draft picks were more harsh than what we ended up with. So Adrian Anderson and I spent hours, days, negotiating these things behind closed doors. And that was, I think, a difference between us and Essendon. And we got our result, they got their result, and it's imprudent of us to even comment on Essendon, and we weren't going to comment on Essendon.
But your members are, Chappie, your members are spewing about the amount of draft sanctions that they've got compared to Essendon, and I can understand that.
Yep, and that's right. And they're all saying to me, and I've rung 15, 20 of them today and emailed them back overnight. And I go, look, it's easy to get out there and it's nice and you feel good about putting the chest out and, throwing a few barbs across. And that does appease, some of those members. But at the end of the day, it achieves nothing. There is no appeal process in this. And we got what we got. And as I said, I think Essendon have got a very harsh sanction. And their club has suffered enormously over the whole period of this investigation and will do for some time. And
So
it's up to others to make those judgments.
So in and we're getting a lot of texts as well. In the negotiation with Essendon, they only make a likeness to the Adelaide Crows because you guys just went through it at the start of the year. Was Stephen Trigg offered up instead of draft sanctions?
Mate, we discussed that there was nothing out of the ambit. Where it started and where it ended up, quite frankly, at our board, we thought it was really harsh, and I still think it's harsh to this day.
Yep.
But I know we're respected by the AFL Commission. Commissioners have told me that, and I know the executive think the same. And I think if you got Andrew back on board, he'd say that, and he would confirm what I've just said around self-reporting, disclosure, and a commitment to this process and get it done and not play it out through the media, notwithstanding leaks, but not play it out through the media to get the right result for us, for them, and not bring this game into disrepute. And that's why I haven't got into the papers, onto TV or onto your show today.
Okay. Hey, Rob, thanks for your time.
No worries.
Well done. Chairman of the Adelaide Footy Club, Rob Chapman there, have a right of reply. He rang Andrew Demetriou immediately, and they ended up having a good chat about it and joking about it. Andrew did say, yep, the recollection of how you said it was exactly how I see it. We're on the same page. But yet he made a comment on air to us that were two different things.
Correct. Rob Chapman, Chairman of the Adelaide Football Club, was our guest.